Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor Templar here, and we're going to talk about an interesting character who's been around quite a long time in the, quote, UFO area of interest, which really doesn't classify what he studies at all. And that's Jacques Vallee. So as we look into Jacques Vallee, who's had his usual contacts throughout the corrupt military-industrial complex, the CIA has been in bed with NASA and everyone else, and who recently assisted his fellow disinformation agent, Colonel John A. Alexander, retired, and wrote the introduction in his pretty much standard policy that he's been preaching ever since his investigations in UFOs, when he was contacted by all of the investigative services and sold out. Yes, he heard that sound of the cash register. Being a person of modicum success. And of course, he's a computer scientist. He has a degree in computer science, which in itself is something that would keep you in a mathematical, low-based reality. Certainly not someone who can think about the possibilities of what's going out there. But like so many other traitors to the human race, people who have sold out, they're doing a fantastic disservice. And of course, they're the ones that are pushed up there, supposedly having some sort of featured character in Close Encounters of the Third Kind from Spielberg. And of course, Spielberg seems to always be connected in all these, and is a person that thinks that there is no corruption in the world and that the government is your buddy. Of course, when you have hundreds of millions of dollars, I guess the world is rosy and pinky and fine. So, Jacques has always been out there perpetrating his bizarre take on UFOs. Instead of using the classic Occam razor understanding of life to use traditional scientist realities, of the easiest solution is probably the correct one, he has to go into some minefield of existentialism. Could be anything, monsieur. It could be rockets. Giant ants made ships. They went into the dimensions. These ants, which we all know are very, very, very advanced species, were able to create these things and go from one dimension to another. It's amazing. So let's hear it for old Jackie. So, the whole idea is that this computer scientist of low mentality at the basis, and of course everybody's been claimed to be connected to the internet and everything else, which certainly isn't something that is special. It was created by thousands of people through military money, as usual, and there were computer boards have been around probably for 50 years now, which is a form of the internet. Of course, he's another guy that claims a lot like everything else. So he worked on things like everybody else did. Of course, he's in bed with NASA, supposedly was the first person to map Mars, which ought to tell you something right there. Here he went, and while other people were looking at the face on Mars and all the strange formations there, he was helping NASA map it to come out with their fictitious maps like they have everything else. Like there's nothing on the moon either. So once he gets involved with the military and everyone else, he starts to get this interest in UFOs. And of course, it's interesting how he is pretty much educated and went through the military, McDonnell Douglas, NASA, one of the classic states that trains all of the Illuminati people. He was at the University of Texas at Austin. But he's got this long line of American educational systems while being a person of French origin, which I find interesting as well. He does work somewhat over there, but he's also, his degrees are not in computer, but he's a person who has degrees in, I believe it's not astrology, astrology. Where is it? I'm trying to find that here. But regardless, he doesn't have any real scientific degrees. And this is something that people confuse what science and other technical skills are. But he then, of course, wormed his way into the other famous UFO researcher, J. Allen Hynek. Of course, being told to do that by his controllers. And got into this entire field and writes this all mumbo jumbo, some sort of bad mushroom trip reality of that these are dimensional. Now, let's go over the facts here. Whether there are dimensional entities, and there are probably tens of thousands of these that manifest in different ways. We just don't really have much information on this because regular science won't really work with the occult science who studies these things. Now, dimensional, spirits, other things, well, these are words that are thrown around that are almost meaningless. What's a dimension? How does it manifest? Well, when you get into these mumbo-jumbo confused areas of understanding, it is a limitless pot of confusion and conjecture. Anything is possible, and this is why we need to move away from these kinds of things. What is reality? Are we living in the Matrix? Are we a computer-generated program? Well, if we get into these kind of realities, it is endless, and all it does is put you in a state of mental confusion. Now, whether we are computer-generated, living in a Matrix-type world, well, we have the physical world realities to deal with, even if that's a made-up consciousness. So, as such, we need to fully understand the ridiculousness when you start getting into these areas and going into these pseudo-intellectual pursuits that lead you absolutely nowhere. So, this is like Einstein and the others these are considered scientists who are theoretical physicists, maybe ifs and commands. That's what they get paid for. They're making up theories of how things work based on their informational understanding that's been taught to them by others that they then add to. I hope everyone understands that. Theoretical physicists. Theoretical. Now, I thought science was all about proof, yet here we have scientists that are valued and everything is based on, to a large extent, falsely, of course, with Einstein as we know now and have really known ever since his bogus theory came out. And if you listen to science, they use the term theoretical, theory. Theory means maybe it could be. This is a possible explanation, one of many, many possible explanations. So the fact that Jacques Vallee ignores all the technology that we know about, just like his little buddy colonel, and he didn't make it to general because we all know he didn't have much respect to the military. So the whole idea is that with his buddy to go out and do disinformation, to keep people in this foggy world of confusion, particularly the pseudo-intellectuals that'll look at this and give it some validity because it's theoretically possible. Well, anything's theoretically possible. As I said, the actual ant people that progressed into this great culture who are now producing these UFOs, no one seems to know about. So the whole idea is that as we move into these ridiculousness perpetrated by these pseudo-intellectual computer scientist, astrological researchers, I don't think looking at planets necessarily gives you any qualification to judge whether there's extraterrestrial life out there. We're not talking about in the neighborhood people. And of course, we just don't know what is on so many planets because we have absolutely no idea and really have never seen any of them clearly. When we do send probes up there, which there should be thousands up in space right now, they come back with information that pretty much refutes everything that everybody believed in anyway. This is a fact. Now, the point is that there has been physical crafts that have been found. This has gone through even the military, or I should say the real military sources that come out and say things have stated that. There has been endless sightings of all sorts of physical beings that do physical things. And all of these things point to this fact. Secondly, we have to point to the logical, computerized, generated facts of that there is billions of planets out there. And as such, as the reality goes, that these would reach certain levels of high technology. It's also well known that even the stupid Earth beings who have copied this technology from extraterrestrials or somehow developed it from some sort of source given to them, is able to produce amazing things, including anti-gravity that is used all the time now, intergalactic or at least interplanetary travel that is being done right now, and the abilities to do that have been verified. Now, we need to understand that these are verified facts. The head of Lockheed's Black Project division, upon retiring in his 70s or whatever it is, stated to an audience, which has been verified by noted people from all walks of life, that we have the capacity of interplanetary travel right now and had it for many years, just like we have anti-gravity and other things. Yet, Jacques Vallee, with his super intellectuel, I know no defects. I believe my own mind. Bring me escargot. So the idea is that little jockey boy here refuses to go to the hard data, living in the government disinformation realm, having his books published, making sure that they will be archived and put there for others to view and look at for years and years to come now, of a person that has absolutely no background whatsoever except being a self-appointed researcher. How people become proteges of other people, how they go and do that in educational institutions is quite interesting. And how they get paid for it, how they're taken on. Do you just walk up to a UFO person and say, I want to study under you, and they just do that in colleges and other places? How do they support themselves? No, all of this is a big question unless you're getting the government envelope. So the whole idea is that this nonsensical thing goes way beyond the realities of what's happening in this real world into his pseudo-intellectual controlled disinformation world. He is a traitor to the human race. As long as we do not know the truth and won't even understand the proven computerized mathematical equations that there has to be teeming amounts of life, and we found this out already within the universe and galaxy, etc., and that these people and certain groups of them will have to reach high levels of technology, and that the Earth is 2 billion years newer than most of the rest of the universe, is staggering. That means somebody, and that means billions of planets, have had billions of years of a head start on us. So to think, of course, that any very evolved species that are billions of years ahead of us wouldn't have the capacities to work on a much more, quote, dimensional reality is another ignorant thing, because he knows nothing about the occult sciences. People do that now, where you're able to materialize and dematerialize. He would call that, well, that's dimensional. You can't do that in real life. Well, you can do that, escargot eater. And your ignorance is just profound. And of course, you're the type of person they seek out to become a disinformation agent, especially since your European background allows you to infiltrate into European areas and start botching them up, causing them problems, giving them confused thinking processes. Now let's understand the UFO issue in general. The UFO issue in general, or it's not really UFOs, we're not talking about objects in the sky. We're talking about alien contact with humans, directly, indirectly, period. Now, whether they're coming here, walking on the streets, having ice cream cones on the boardwalk, whether they're driving automobiles, whether they're affecting military bases, whether they're doing whatever is what we're talking about here. We're not talking about things in the sky that he seems to be fixated on like a child who wants a lollipop. Unbelievable. We're talking about extraterrestrial, alien, sentient beings contacting us and making physical contact in one way or another, or physically visible. The rest of this stuff should be left to boobs like Einstein. Ah, well, I'll be a black bill snitcher. So the whole idea is that we don't need that kind of nonsense to be perpetrated. Is there alien contact? And to think that he's going to go to the military, who's refused to produce this, and the most dangerous and hottest subject out there, by the way, the one thing that is kept in and where your life is most in danger is when you start getting involved with extraterrestrial contact. UFOs and all this stuff means absolutely nothing. Why would an advanced culture even show the ships that they come in? Why would that make sense? Why would they necessarily even use vehicles when they could, quote, beam back and forth like in Star Trek, or park their vehicles in a very non-seen area and then use sensors? So, I mean, all these things are illogical based on computer-based programming that old Jacques should know well. So this is what the discussion is, and I've laid out the type of unidentified flying objects in other audios, and I will continue to do that. So people understand this entire subject matter. Those who really want the great information that is available out there should go to the link on the below this video so that they can get greater information on the occult sciences and what's happening in general, and connect with an organization that knows what's going on. Also, always subscribe to this channel so you can get the latest and greatest that comes out, and give us your positive like. So, when we get into all this, that's the question. And this person, like so many pseudo experts, like so many pushed in front of us liars, cheats, and disinformation agents like his buddy Colonel John B. Alexander, who has done nothing to assist the process of bringing all of these, quote, alternative, quote, psychic, quote, technologies to the forefront, while he mouths how much he's seen things happen and other things, which I don't believe whatsoever from him. He seems to be impressed by a lot of bogus things if you go to his website. So these people are out there talking to get in control of and get next to people like this so they can manipulate them. And the fact that Vallee would be involved with this colonel and write an introduction to his book condemning UFOs and extraterrestrial contact shows us exactly whose pocket Jacques is in. Pretty straightforward to me. Should be straightforward to you.